All right. Welcome everyone to the Agentic AI Foundation, and we're going to talk about Claude Cowork today. And welcome. You're here for the Claude Cowork?
Sure.
Yeah. Come on in, and the password, Wi-Fi over there.
Is this a working? Sorry. I'll watch for now.
Okay, so it's hands-on at some point.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
get situated. We just got started.
Perfect.
And this is part of a series where we do that we've been doing for what, like a year now, almost a year probably. Jonathan has been co-hosting with me, leveraging AI. So we have series of webinars, and this is the in-person part of this series. And with that, Jonathan from Stifel Venture Banking is going to talk about Stifel.
Yeah, so, well, first, thanks for coming. We've done these, as Danny mentioned, for at least 10 months. They've been pretty popular, especially the webinar component online. And this is going to be workshop. We can come in person here. So thanks to Resident Club for letting us use their space here. So, yeah, so look, so Stifel Venture Banking, we are the venture bank arm of Stifel Financial, our parent, based in St. Louis, Missouri, over 150 years old, one of the largest banks in the United States. We have about $500 billion on deposit. Our investment bank is especially famous. So if you've heard of Stifel, that might be where you've seen the name. We also have one of the country's largest wealth management arms. So sort of another division of Stifel. We are the humble venture banking group. So we have offices, largest office is in San Francisco, second largest here in New York, where I am. And we have people also in the other hubs. So Southern California, North Carolina down south, Boston, and of course HQ in St. Louis. So we are the bank for the venture ecosystem. So we are the commercial bank for early stage companies. So if you're a startup, you need a bank account, you are looking for venture debt, looking for credit cards, treasury management. This is all kind of the stack that we provide. We're also the bank for venture capital firms. So we have hundreds of venture capital firm clients who bank with us. On the one hand, we are just their bank in terms of taking depository, but we also provide them with specialized credit products. So things like capital call lines and a few other things like NAP financing as well. We also do a lot of work sort of in the ecosystem. So connecting, right, the founders and the funds that invest in their companies. So we hold hundreds of events per year across all our offices. Most of these events are targeted at founders and or venture capital investors who work at funds currently. But we do have events that are also kind of more open, if you will, to the ecosystem and the public. You can find those events on our Luma page. Generally, we have a dedicated Luma page calendar, so you can sign up there. And these webinars and workshops are part of that. I'll just really quickly rewind, talk about startup banking for a minute. If you're an early stage startup and you've raised a certain amount of capital, let's say from institutional investors, there's no exact number, but frankly, if you raise money from VC firms, we have an entire credit team that I also work with. They are always happy to kind of look at your company. You can also talk to me if you like first, to potentially see whether or not venture debt could be a potential for you. It's non-dilutive capital, it's additional months or more of runway, and it also comes with sort of other potential benefits, right? So because if you think about raising your next round, a lot of times people don't realize, but venture debt is very much is a strategy for working on that. So that's kind of like on that side of it. And then in terms of our connectivity, we spend a lot of time trying to help our clients, startups in particular, connect with investors out in the larger kind of investor universe. The events are part of that, but we also do work with them on a more kind of one-to-one basis. And that's something I've spent some time doing, at least in the past. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, if you're a founder, if you're an investor, interested in, you probably already have a bank is my guess, but even if you don't, happy to kind of work with you, see if we can kind of get you on the platform. So always worth talking to me, doesn't cost anything. And, I can hit on my email as well at the end.
moj@stifelbank.com.
Correct. moj@stifelbank.com.
Sweet. Thank you, Jonathan.
Cheers.
All right. A little bit about me. I've been coaching startup in the past 9 years. A lot of them with like helping them with the pitch, but also getting to validate their market. A lot of times, of course, our babies are beautiful, even when no one loves. So validating the market was like a big thing that I help people figure out. And then in the past couple years, got into this whole AI thing, as in like educating and enabling people, and that's how I got involved with this whole thing. And from the people I've helped adopt AI, seems like productivity increased like at least 3x if you know how to use that, but even more in a lot of cases. And my background was in product design, so I applied the human first approach to this whole thing. Work with those companies, just name dropping a bit. Okay, so today's agenda, we'll talk about just the welcome. We'll talk about what is agentic AI, and then we'll get into the Cloud Cowork demo, and then we get to the hands-on activity, and then we'll chat at the end. Questions, if you have any questions, and the next steps. Okay, what is agentic AI? You guys remember this February? No?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was at a Bloomberg conference where they were talking about the SaaS pipeline list.
Yep. So this was when Anthropic shipped the industry plugins, so not just the Cowork, but the plugins for Cowork, which we will cover a little bit later. And also Opus 4.6, which was the model that's supposedly good for this agentic work. And a lot of companies in the SaaS area dropped that day. Salesforce, Microsoft, Workday, a lot of them, right? And Anthropic has been obviously you guys know about this. Anthropic has been gaining a lot of momentum with the enterprise customers. So this is one of the things that got the attention. So a lot of times when we start doing work with AI, we start with the prompting, right? Because prompt engineering. And we ask, it answers. So it's an answer engine. One turn at a time, we follow up, and then we ask it more questions. So it's just basically chatting with it, a chatbot. That's how ChatGPT got big. It's like a very smart intern, right? With agentic AI, the difference is that it's actually going to do things for us, completing tasks. We give it a goal, and it figures out the steps and the
Even
completion.
if it means killing other software.
Well, that's part of it. That's why we need humans, right? That's why we need humans to design the guardrails and all that thing. It plans and then it executes and then it evaluates and then iterate and adjust the approach, the steps. It can use tools, search, files, APIs. It's more like a junior employee who can own the task. Very, very smart junior employee, but still junior, right? It's the shift from assistant to an agent. So it has the agency to actually complete the task for us, given the goal. Now, the 3-layer model, right? Like an org chart, we have the intention, the human giving the goal, the outcome, and the task itself. And then there's the manager for the orchestration layer, breaking down the goal, sequencing the steps, and deciding which tools to use, how to actually accomplish that task. And then we have the execution layer, the actual doer, right? In this case, the AI agent would actually do the work, doing the web search, reading files, whatever the work that needs to be done based on what's assigned from the orchestrator. Right? So this could become an architecture in a lot of cases if you use, let's say, OpenClaw or Hermes, one of those things. And now Cloud Code, it could actually orchestrate a bunch of sub-agents as well. Right? So we need to understand, okay, so this is how it works. So most people only think about the execution because that's what we're used to. And the leverage is knowing how to set the intention very clearly. So we need to know when it's actually done and at what quality that is acceptable. And how do we review that? And if not, how do we also make sure, and a big part of it is how do we make sure that it doesn't damage anything else? Like you said,
Like
like,
the old days of TQM, right? Total quality management.
so we need to actually get to that again, right? We need to actually be more cautious, I guess, in that sense, especially when it's touching like real data or like interfacing with customers, obviously, interfacing with humans actually, not just, yeah, we have to be thoughtful about that, particularly when it's interfacing with humans, not just customers actually, but internal also, because that could cause a lot of distrust, right, internally. The React loop. This is how the agent does the work. It reasons, think about the goal. What do I know? What do I need? Right? So and then it acts using tool, API, right, file, whatever, and then it observe, evaluate, like, is this done? Is it meeting the standard? And it repeats until it's done. So the power of this whole agentic workflow is actually that loop that runs automatically and continuously until it achieves the goal. And then the context window is getting bigger and bigger, especially now with I think Claude Opus 5, that's what we have now. It could run for hours. And then I think Fable is like can run even longer. So the context getting bigger and bigger. You can just leave it and run, right? Now, as we know, LLM, large language model, only takes in tokens and basically text, textual information.
I have a beef with you calling LLMs the brains. They're not brains.
Well, that's the easiest way to explain it to layman. I agree with you, but in a way to distill it,
It's a data source.
um, yes, technically it's more accurate. That said, though, to actually get it to the practical application,
I
that's
know.
gonna confuse a lot of people.
I know. But what happens is people think it's as smart as humans. It's not.
Well, that's
not-
why we make sure that
Yeah.
explicitly say they're not, and we want them to experience this. That's why we're doing this, right? So when you're evaluating the output, then you're starting to realize, it's actually, it may sound smart, but it's not as smart as human. It doesn't know the context that is like very obvious to us in a lot of cases. But for the sake of understanding like how these things work,
Mhm.
the LLM is like the brain. So it understands the context, reason, but it's the input and output is only the language tokens, right? And then in order for it to complete task, it needs the tools. And the fancy term is MCP, Model Context Protocol, essentially allows it to access APIs, create script. That's what it does, right? So it can actually accomplish things. What's interesting there is that the way that works is that it actually writes either like a JSON or like an actual script. So the output is still just token, input token, output token. Now, in order to actually complete multiple steps, it needs memory. So that's the other thing that it needs, right? So memory, tool, the LLM itself, and the one thing that's missing from this is knowledge base, right? It needs also the knowledge to provide the context. Without the tools, the agent can think, but then it's not going to be able to actually accomplish anything. And without the memory, it's going to just keep forgetting. So it's got amnesia, like short-term memory, like, oh, I forgot what I just did. So that's why we need all these things. Okay. Claude Cowork, a brief history. I'm guessing some of you familiar with this. Start with Cowork, with the Claude Code.
Yeah.
Yep, so it started with Claude Code, and then developers started to use it for other things. Anthropic noticed that, and then it adds the UX layer on top of it. And it started with just the desktop app, only available on the desktop. But then now, recently, they make it available on the web, the browser base as well, which is interesting. Reaches general
Why is that
availability
interesting?
because the way they started it's contained within like whatever files in the computer, right?
Mhm.
Now, because they see that Plexity and all OpenClaw and all these things like run forever, and the limitation is that if your computer going to sleep, then the work stops. They add the beta, the Claude version of it, the cloud of Claude Cowork version of it, so it can continue running in the background. So there's a trade-off there, obviously, right? Because then they make copy of your files there. So that's something to be aware of. So now that's what happened in July 2026. They just expanded that to web and mobile. So the good thing about that, obviously, is then because it's available online, even when you're on the go from your phone, you can still continue working essentially, or continue checking the work.
So that could also be a threat vector.
Mhm.
So,
So this is something to be aware of, right? Now, so that's the surface is expanding. Potentially, that could be a vulnerability as well. So we need to be mindful of the kind of task that we give it. That's the big takeaway there. And there's always that trade-off when there's
Does it have
convenience.
access to like your cookie files as well? Like could Claude, if you give it instruction in the latest instance, if you give it instructions to scan your emails, just say you had an agent that was, organizing your emails or organizing follow-ups. If it
Okay.
was in the cloud itself, but on your computer had access, or you could give an instruction to get your email. In theory, in the cloud, it's accessing that at the same time too.
I don't think it could access cookies because that's on the local browser
Or
storage.
you could access your email from there and then.
Well, if you give it access, potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know to what extent the available connectors for the web versus the mobile. I mean, the web versus the desktop, because they used to have different set of connectors tools that are available for the desktop app versus the mobile. I mean, the web. And now I don't know if for the Cowork, I don't know. So that's going to give you the somewhat of an answer of what you're asking.
so now there's some people that are interested more in sovereign AI, right? And
Mhm.
sovereignty. And I met an investor that wants to launch a fund only investing in sovereign AI. Can you talk about parameters around when it's best to use it purely on your environment versus the broader? What tasks are better for the broader? What work is better for the broader stuff?
I think the stuff that are more sensitive, you definitely don't want to do it with the browser.
Mhm.
The kind of things that you wouldn't want people to find online, don't do the browser version.
So can you break up when you're creating an agent?
Mhm.
Can you break up an agent? So like the thing that we're building, for instance, we don't want it all to be available through the browser.
Correct.
So can we orchestrate it so that, how do we orchestrate it so that some of it is on our own environment versus what would make sense to do it more on a browser base?
So the things that are, for example, like doing comparative analysis, publicly available data, that kind of thing, that's fine, right? Proprietary data, I wouldn't want to do it on the browser base.
So any kind of proprietary data, don't do it browser. Okay.
That's like the difference between Claude and say like Google LLM, right? Like Google claims that it's a walled garden. Anything you do and set up in there
It is.
sort of supposed to be private.
So we have a
Yep.
Google Suite account, and then sometimes I'm like, go check the internet, and it goes, I am not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I think that's how Google is trying to compete with these guys.
Yeah, they're productizing it this
Yep.
way. We're not going to change, and so if you want this, here's the value.
Basically, what they're saying is that we already have everything. So what do you want to hide from
Yeah.
us? Right? We already have it.
Especially if you're using Google Suite.
Yeah,
I've got
you
everything
have
in
we have the
my
drive, you have the email, right? So what do you want to hide from us? We already know everything.
Yeah.
And even like Chrome browse history, it's like if you use that, if you log in, they know everything. So that's how Google is trying to actually compete with these guys.
Mhm.
Now, the thing about the OpenAI, so the OpenAI version of Cowork is, I think, Work, they call it, right? Just Work, OpenAI Work. Jonathan, have you used that?
Yeah,
Do you like it?
yeah.
Right. So are you finding the connectors very,
Yeah, I don't use MCPs like.
oh, you know, man.
Yeah, no, I have a few of them. I don't know, I've thought about it, but I just, the particular things I do apparently don't seem to like require them. I know that they're powerful and useful, et cetera.
Mhm.
But at least so far, like I haven't found them actually that essential. And also maybe because I tend to like hand code like the orchestrator component.
Mhm.
So I just use like either API calls, or I actually sometimes will, this is a little bit arcane, but. Instead of using, well, like actually, not mag, but I will use the retail facing. Component of the OLM rather than API calls, because they're quite different.
Mm-mm. Makes sense. Yeah, I think the one thing that I don't like as much about Google ecosystem is that the limited amount of MCPs, the connectors, is quite limited compared to the Claude ecosystem, the
And
Anthropic.
just to refresh, the purpose of the MCP is that's the connection to outside.
Correct.
Program.
So essentially, with APIs, right? So API allows us to interact with another platform with their data.
Is it
when it's exposed.
API?
So essentially, instead of connecting to individual endpoints of the API, so for example, if you're trying to do something with Slack for just getting the list of channel, there's one endpoint. To write a message, there's one endpoint. With MCP, you connect once, you get access to everything.
Everything that they've allowed
That they
access
allow.
to that MCP, which to his point may be different for than API calls.
No, it's like those are the API calls.
Okay, it connects to all API.
Yeah, that they make available,
Okay,
right? So they connect to this. So essentially, the tool set, instead of just one tool at a time, they give you the tool to connect once, and then the LLM could use it.
got it.
So that way, it's way more efficient. Right. Okay, so moving on. So this is like the stats that we got so far. Business processes, as you can see, been rising, and this is the reason why they create this UX layer for Cowork, as opposed to just letting people use Claude Code, is to make it easier for knowledge worker, right? People who are not coders to use it. And it seems like they're making the right bet. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick tour of the interface. This is just more like my notes to make sure I cover stuff that we want to cover. Actually, let me just go to the web version. I'm curious about that. Feeling a little bit.
Live dangerously.
Yeah. Want to live on the edge a bit. Okay. So, Claude AI. Now, this is something that I'm sure that we're familiar with. There's this chat versus Cowork, right? As you can see, chat is just very clean. When you turn on Cowork, when you switch to Cowork, there's this. This is the project, which we'll cover in a minute. Essentially, that's the container that would make it agentic. And then there's this. This is for approval. By default, it's manual, I believe, but they're pushing the automatic approval more and more. I wouldn't go with skip all approvals, because essentially, whenever it's trying to use a tool, right, it's gonna ask you, hey, do you want to allow this? Right. So with manual, every single time there's a new tool, it's gonna ask you to give approval. And then there's automatically approved. It will approve only when it looks unsafe, which is, I think, the best way to do it. Because from my experience, when we do the manual approval, because it's asking the approval so often, I just like tune out and be like, yeah.
Can you
Which,
toggle the threshold of what's risky or not?
no.
So it's an agentic definition of it.
So it's their definition,
Okay.
right? With this, if it's something, again, is outward facing, read only, then you can just like, yeah, sure. So that's that. And then this is the one that's new that I mentioned earlier. So here, so I'm going to compare, it says beta, I'm going to compare this to the desktop version. The desktop version actually tells us here. Wait, let me close this. Oh, there it is. Run this task in the cloud or on your computer. Obviously, because that one is on the browser, there is no option to go to the computer, right? So this thing, obviously, the limitation is it only runs while the computer is on, but everything stays within the computer. Come in. The Cowork workshop? Yes. Come in, come in. Grab a seat here, and there's the Wi-Fi password there. Now I just started the demo of a tour of the Cowork interface. And this is the switch. What's interesting here is that the plus here will give us the connectors. They're shared between the chat and the Cowork. So in a lot of cases, you can like switch back and forth. So Cowork normally the reason why you want to go to Cowork is because it's contained within that folder, whatever that you want to give it access to, and more focus on that context. Now that it's living in the cloud as well, that's becoming kind of blurry. Now, connectors, this is what we were talking about earlier, right? So these are the connectors that I have on. For example, I have Netlify, Gmail, Google Drive, Robinhood, all these different things. And if you manage the connectors, you could see that you can add all kinds of connectors here. You can add, let me just try to add a new one, browse connector.
And is the way to think about these connector, I guess, I was gonna say extensions, because they could connect directly to content sources or.
Um,
I'm thinking in browser world, the problem.
I guess it's kind of similar, but it's more API. I think API is more tools that's why like when people say AI tools, it's not actually not that accurate because the tool now has tools. That's why now the more accurate term is harness, right? Because it has like the tools, the guardrails, and all these different things. But within these things, we have also filter by type, the category, right? Only available on desktop or only available for the web. For example, the kind that it's only available for desktop is to control your Mac. It has the ability to write script for Apple, like to control your actual computer. And in here, I'm trying to find the list of tools that are here. These are all the tools that are available for this one MCP, this one connector. So these are all the APIs. So we connect the ones, boom, done.
Yeah.
And we'll cover the other two later, the skills and plugins. But in order to connect it, you just connect it here and it's done. And when I started teaching this whole thing, we have to go to the config and then update the config file. Now it's just super easy. It's so fast. Okay, so that's connector. And let me just go back to what else that I want to cover here. This is the model, right? We could also determine the effort. Normally, I don't mess with that too much. Typically, Sonnet is fine for everyday task, for most tasks, unless you're building something that you may want to go to Opus. And if you're just like asking questions, something that's like quick, you may want to go with Haiku, simply because using Opus for that would make Claude overthink things, plan how they would answer, and you're just like, oh, stop,
Yeah.
just answer me. And you can go to older models as well here. Okay, so that's that. Let's see what else do we got here. Task list memory. Okay. Now, in order for us to make this agentic, meaning that having a complete task for us, normally we start with the project and then we can create a project. I'm gonna here, so I'm just gonna say Cowork demo. It's gonna go to the project actually from here. Because I want to show you guys these other things. Okay. Are you guys familiar with system prompt? Yes. No.
Maybe not by that thing.
Okay, so prompt, we give the AI assistant, AI engine, AI tools, whatever we want to call it, prompt, right? This is, we're telling it what to do. Now, the system prompt is something that gets sent, it's like the higher level of that. So if I say that in this case, you are a researcher, right? The role, and then this is how you should do this. And then after that, whenever I give it a prompt, that system prompt supersede the individual prompt. So I don't need to repeat myself every single time. Make sense?
Yeah.
Now, that's the system prompt on the project level. Claude, as a harness, also has a system prompt that we don't see. That's the guardrails and all these things. You can't do this. That's why if you ask it to do something that might be harmful, it would refuse. Right? And then so this is what that would separate the different harnesses. That's why we would use, for example, in this case, Cloud Cowork versus Cloud Code. Because Cloud Code has the system prompt to play the role of a developer, essentially. Make sense? So this is also like cursor and all these other things. They have like specialized prompt that we don't see. That's that. Okay, so that's the system prompt. And then here we have, so that's in the Cloud world, it's called instructions, but it's actually a lot of times called system prompt. The memory, you can make this available to other people too as well if you're working with other people, potentially. Context, you can add knowledge base, and then you can schedule a task. So if, let's say again, using comparative analysis as an example, let's say you want to do that kind of review every month. After you create the instruction, you can just schedule it to run every month, right? So that it runs in the background. You don't have to worry about it, and it can email you, or if you connect it to Telegram or one of these messaging MCPs, send you a message.
Yeah. So let's say you didn't have the Claude installed, you're doing the web. If you need to if you leave it running within a browser, will it be able to run and access files?
Not your local files.
Okay.
Because
So it could run on that.
so what happens is that it would make a copy of your local files when you give it access, when you give it a task. When it's on the browser, you can try to make a copy of your local file and then bring it back to local.
Okay.
Or if it's available online, then you just keep it online, right? If you don't have, you give it access. As a start of like this is like the website, the web version, right? As a start of a project, normally let's say I'm gonna go here, tech review, because this is what I did earlier. Let me see the web version all right, so I'm gonna show you the difference. With the desktop version, you can add a folder to it. So I'm just gonna show you the comparison between the two. Where is it? Deck review. So this is the same one. I was updating the deck that I use, right? Here. The difference is that with the desktop version, we have this one. To actually attach a folder, add a folder. Essentially what I'm doing here, if I add here, it's like, hey, this is a folder you have access to. That's what I would tell Claude, right? Outside of that folder, Claude cannot do anything. Not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the project. I'm going to do a quick, then there's the artifacts that it would create. Now in this is when it's already happening, right? So it will show us the progress. This is unique to Claude Cowork. This is the UX layer that it adds. It gives us the progress. And then sometimes it shows us the plan actually as it completes it. It checks the list.
That's what artifacts is.
The artifacts is this, the output, right? And then there's the contacts. And it's telling us the connectors that it's using. So in this particular project, what I asked it to do was to update the deck and then upload it to Netlify. Because I have the MCP for Netlify, that's where I'm hosting it. Boom, so I didn't have to go to Netlify. And so then we can preview this here. Of course, it's broken because it doesn't have that part, the browser, but it's working. That's that. Oh, and here, if you want to just chat with it, you could. You want to just use voice. You want to vibe with it. That's what they're calling it these days, right? Vibing with the AI.
Because for the task, you sign for this one, as opposed to.
This one is simple enough. Then that's why I use Sonnet. I could have tried to use Haiku, but why? I didn't bother. And this is also fairly new. Recently, they allow us to actually change the model in the middle of a conversation. They used to force us to stick with the same model for every thread. Now with this one I don't think this wasn't part of a project. This was just like a task. I'm gonna show you a demo of a project now within a project. Okay, so I'm gonna use this meeting prep agent. Now, this is the instruction I gave it. This is the format that I like to use to keep it focused on the task and like give me a good output. I normally give it a role and then the instruction itself and the format of the output, right? In this case, this agent is an executive assistant helping me prepare for a call. And the instruction is to ask for the LinkedIn URL of the person that I'm going to have a call with. And then ask the user about the goal for this call, conduct background research on the person, and then prepare a brief to prepare me for the call. And this is what I wanted to give me. Brief, topics to avoid, right?
So you take that even further and say, for the people who have emailed attached to this meeting and fill that in.
You can do that. You can even get it to add to the calendar. And for this kind of event, invite this person. You can go far with this, right? Or like another one that I've done before, create a proposal. If this is like a sales call, already create the proposal, create the demo. Boom, by the time we meet, it's already done. Right, so in this case, let's say I'm gonna go to LinkedIn real quick and I'll find somebody to just use this for a demo. Yes, this first, the lucky person on the top of my feed.
And is this only gonna go to LinkedIn, or is it doing a broader search on the web? Is it going into more background?
We can ask it. As of now, I believe it's only going to LinkedIn because I give this. And in the background, there's a connector for browser use that is baked into Entropic's thing. So as per the instruction, it's asking me for the goal for this call, right? So I'm gonna be like, okay, sell pitch. How much do you already know her? Met briefly. So it's smart enough to ask me about these things.
You didn't program that.
Well, the goal, yeah, but the second one, no. So it's starting to give me the progress, right? And it's searching the web right now. So when it's searching the web, it's just using the web fetch tool is more efficient than when it's using the browser tool. Because when using the browser tool, it's taking screenshot and translating it into text and all these things with OCR and whatnot. So whenever you're just trying to scrape data or something like this, just let it use the web fetch tool. Oh, first pages from. So now it's trying to go to that person's website, actually. So I'm just gonna allow all.
And you didn't tell it to do the web.
I ask it to look, basically to find background information about this person. But new enough, this person is a designer, so he wants to do that. Now, that is also because I'm using Opus 5 High. smart, right? We can try again using haiku later and see the difference.
Mhm.
So with Opus, now there's something that I think is part of their training where it is very careful in evaluating its output. It even knows when to do adversarial review.
Oh, okay,
So it would spin out an agent to check its own work. To
so
the
we don't
adversarial
have
review.
to prompt for that, it'll
Mhm.
just do one, okay, good to know.
Yeah, this is where the token is being burned right now. It's not showing us now. When we use Claude Code, it actually shows us the token that's being burned.
Oh, really?
Nobody really cares about that.
I don't know, like some people actually feel like it's almost like making them feel like they're making progress. All there's like, yeah. It's the same like when we just started this whole journey when people say, oh, my thing just wrote 30,000 line of code. I'm like, who cares now?
I, I went to a meeting where people were talking about tokens and I'm just like, what the heck are you doing that you need 78 tokens? It's more important what you're actually doing, not your token usage.
Well, in a lot, have you guys heard of token maxing?
Yeah,
Yeah. No?
no,
Now, I
that
just know my brother works for Cisco, he's like, you're starting to run into our maximum. That has been a lot of it, so.
that's what the guys were doing. They were just like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of puffing up their chest and talking about token maxing, and I was just like,
So
God.
what it is that companies like Meta and few other big tech, they're trying to get everybody to use AI more. So they have a leaderboard. Was
They're
that?
actually pulling back on that now.
Yeah, now they are.
Starting
Yeah.
to pull back.
They what like maybe last year it was like at the height of this thing. They have a leaderboard of people who spend the most token and they get rewarded for it. So what do they do? Of course, they would just let these agents like do random stuff that's
Yeah.
useless.
Yeah,
All right. So here we go. We got the call brief with Asta. Brief bio, education, how she describe herself, share ground with you, what to cover in the call, ask for topics to avoid, and these are the sources. So you look at all these. And so I didn't have to actually do all the legwork for this. Potentially, this could become like, hey, turn this into a calendar invite and put the objective agenda on the calendar. Yeah. So I'm actually curious. I'm gonna copy this and try to. Now, notice that I didn't give it any prompt other than the URL. It knows, right? Because the system prompt is already there.
yeah.
So here I'm going to change this to haiku and see if this would still work.
And there's no prompt there, it still has the prompt.
Well, because the system prompt is there and we're working within the
Okay.
project.
Yeah, as a little service, it's weird.
Yep. So I just went up here and this is how we know that we're still there. You see how it's different the way it responds? When is the call? A few quick questions. Is the goal still the same? One, not scheduled yet. Two, so okay. Number two, is the goal still the same? So it remembers
Yeah, I was gonna say it took it from
because the memory is there
They took it from.
from the previous one, right? So do you want to refresh any part of the brief? Okay, I'm gonna say the same. Start over. Let's see if the output is better, same.
failed to fetch. Well,
It's not as good as Opus in tool usage, so sometimes it fails.
okay.
So the
Alright.
different model has different capabilities in like tool usage. That's why
Hmm.
recently the Chinese model, Kimi
Mhm.
K3, got like a lot of publicity because it's actually super good at that.
Mm.
I think Kimmy is the one with like the swarming. You can like
Oh,
spawn hundreds of agents to like attack the thing. So now I heard that the token usage by agent versus human is like agents using like 1,000 times more at least because of that. Like you just spawn hundreds of agents to attack this one thing.
but so could we tell Claude to create a swarm to go out and do this, right?
You could, but not with this.
Not haiku, but
No, not with Cloud Cowork. The harness is not for
Okay.
that.
okay.
You could do it with Cloud Code. Probably not to that level because the model is not for that. I don't think the Claude's model allow for that.
Yeah, it's like anything, it was designed for sort of a purpose, not,
So
like
the-
network versus, code.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with Kimmy, and then I think there's another one, I forgot the name now from Moonshot. Minimax. They're designed for the like the open clause of the world that just runs on a Mac Mini and runs.
Mhm.
So brute forcing stuff. Okay, so let's see. So this is what it created. Okay, not bad. Call strategy.
But it also has the previous information.
Yeah.
So can you run a
So
search
that's
on
just
someone
recurrence.
new?
Okay, let's compare this. I'm gonna just
Somebody
copy
new?
this and let's see. Cancel. I'm gonna create a new project and then see. Meeting prep 2. Okay, instructions, gonna drop this. And I'm actually gonna make this instead of extended, I'm gonna use this. Just the normal and see if it's any. Maybe it's actually simple enough for this to handle.
Well, it failed on LinkedIn.
Yeah, the first time around, but it recovered.
Oh, it did. I didn't
Right?
see that.
Yeah,
I didn't really do anything. It just recovered. We just chatting and then it did. It completed it. Okay, so it's the same so far, right? I'm gonna say,
Well, it doesn't have the cell.
yep, sales pitch. So that's another thing, because I didn't give it the set of options. It's just trying to come up with whatever makes sense for it, right? What are you trying to pitch? Product, service. Okay, so here's interesting. LinkedIn blocks automated access. Let me ask you a few guys so I can prepare a strong brief for your data. Perfect. To
So
prepare
that's the
the
API, the LinkedIn level, the MCP, that it's not like.
no, I don't have LinkedIn doesn't have API that it made available for everyone.
yeah.
It doesn't, it
They
blocks
don't-
everything.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
LinkedIn is very.
LinkedIn and I think Reddit are very protective of their own content, their own data, because that is the product, right?
Although they don't know what to do with their own data
That's
very well either.
true.
So how was it accessing, sorry for going on a tangent, but how was it accessing LinkedIn?
Earlier?
Through your login?
Well, it has under the hood, it has two tools. One is the web fetch. So it was smart enough with Opus that it could do that. With Haiku, it's not smart enough to figure out how to do that.
Hmm.
To,
Okay,
to bypass the block from LinkedIn.
Well, aren't they gonna just eventually block that too?
At some point, maybe, and then they'll find another way.
they're not advanced enough yet.
Yeah,
I think we're good for a little while. LinkedIn is a little behind with tech.
How they-
So because of that, then it's actually telling me to like, okay, I need more details. When you provide this, I'll research publicly. Okay, now let me try this. Use Opus. Let's try again. Let's see if it actually could figure it out. There you go. And then it found memory, from its memory, it found like the stuff about me, the contacts. Went to Behance and all these other websites. So the level is different. You can see it. So again, it's trying to fetch that. So you can see the different search the web, read for memories, updated task. While with Haiku, just like, can't do it. Now, another thing that's actually useful with the models, this is from my product side for testing. I actually would use the lower model, the simpler model for testing to make sure that it's easier to understand.
What's easy?
For like usable, like say, for example, usability testing to make sure that people can actually navigate easily.
Yeah,
So there's a use for that sometimes. And also we talked about this before we start, like no one has attention span anymore, right? Very short attention span. So with the Haiku, it could just grab whatever is obvious. Then like, okay, then our content is good.
okay.
See, it was able to complete it with the stronger model. So that's when we need to change the model. And it's updating the memory too, blah, blah, blah. With the Haiku, it's like, can't do it. And another thing is that a lot of times, especially with Claude, it's trying to create a very polished document when it's Opus,
Mhm.
and it burns tokens really fast. Sometimes we don't need that. And a lot of times, like for something like this, I'm just like, just create an MD document, markdown, as opposed to using the tool, connecting to Microsoft Word or Google Doc and like burning so much token. Because what happened is that it's every time it's trying to connect to a tool, it would create a JSON.
Can you put NV document and then I want to see what the difference in output is?
So this is MD.
Oh, that is MD.
This is MD.
Okay.
So let me turn this into a Word doc. I don't know if I can do it because I'm on this.
Because it's already in Google Drive, right? It's in your Google, it could put it in your Google Drive, it says.
If,
So I'm guessing it's in a doc
Yep,
format, right?
it's already in a doc form, but it's using the MD format as opposed to, so Google Doc is smart enough to translate the MD into
Yeah.
formatting,
I see.
right?
So can I see what it would be when it's just MD and when it's
Mhm.
just the
So let me just
better
see it.
format? I just want to see the difference.
If you so this is like when it's rendered as a preview, when it's just this is the MD.
Okay,
This is what they actually wrote,
okay,
right? But then the renderer show it like this,
I see, okay.
right? But this is way more efficient than telling it to go to use Word document, open the tool, or use this tool, use that tool from the Word doc.
Right. Because I mean, I put in my universal prompt.
Mhm.
When you give me output, put it in a clear format, but using bullets whenever possible, right? I love bullets and it produces very good, quick output.
Yep. Bullets is one thing that I love as well. Bullets and tables.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially with the smarter models, it gets very, very verbose.
Yes.
Then I'll be like, distill this, use bullet points. All right. So from here, we're running short on time, but we're having good discussion. So we got memory connector, we got that cover. I think I'm going to send you guys the link to the deck from Luma. So if you want to try it on your own, you can. System promise here.
Okay.
Right? Okay, now skill. there is another concept called skill. Okay. So remember, system prompt is something that we could reuse within the confine of the
Highlight
project,
parameter, yeah.
right? Now, what if it's something instruction that you want to reuse across projects? That's where skills come in, right? So I'm going to go to show you to this and show you what it actually looks like. What it is under the hood is essentially just an MD file. It's just a set of instruction. So to do that, you go to customize, and then here are a bunch of skills. So I have a skill, for example, to create invoicing, right? And again, it's an MD file, and if you look at the thing, it's essentially like this. The description is this, and then the workflow, gather inputs, find a template. It's the same thing like what we saw, right? But more robust. Now, to add this, the app comes with some of these from Anthropic, but the most important one is actually this one. You can just turn on the skill creator, right? So once you have it installed, you can actually get Claude to create one for you. So you can just go to the plus. I'm just going to start a new chat actually, because this is within the thing. New from here, skills, browse skills. Wait, what was the add skill? They keep moving things around. I might have to go back to them from manage skills. Oh, here we go, add. They used to allow us to do it from there. So different ways. So you can create with Claude, basically just chat with it, and then say turn into skill, and it becomes a skill that you can just install. You can just
Kind of like, sort of macros, right?
basically. But then the output is just an MD file that it installed, and it becomes available across projects. So you can also include that in your system prompt. For example, one of the skills that I like to use is, for example, front-end design, right? So whenever I create, let's say, a deck like this, or, I don't know, a landing page, I want to use the same front-end design skill. Then I could just say, use the front-end design skill. Now, another thing that you could do is to upload a skill. There are people who make skills out there, but I wouldn't do that. When I started, I did that, then I ended up with tons of skills I didn't use, just in case I would need this.
Right.
This one is new. It's really cool. You could actually record yourself completing a task, and it would translate.
Macro. You can record a macro
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
So you would record it, and it would know how to translate it into the instruction. Okay, so that's that. And okay, I'm gonna tell you about one more thing. Oh, yes. To use it, you can do this, right? Like what I just show you. So these are all the skills that are available. Or you can use the slash command. Same thing, right? So these are the different skills that are available. There's like critique, accessibility review, whatnot. There's one more concept that I want to show you, one more thing here. It's called plugins. This is the thing that I showed you earlier with that crashed the market. So a plugin essentially is just a set of skills based on the function. So you can find them here, plugins, based on the functions, right? So marketing, legal, design. So some of the same skills available, but then with the plugin, you can just add the entire plugin and you have a department.
But like marketing.
Yeah, so it's like you can do all these things. SEO audit, performance report, content creation, all these things, right? And some of these use connectors, use tools. So that's how they all play together. All right. And the last thing related to that, I'm going to back to the project, is this one, schedule. Essentially, let's say once you have this whole thing set up, then you can just schedule a task. Name it, give it a little bit of a description and instructions. And then this is the approval. Most likely you don't want manual because it defeats the purpose of scheduled task. Proof, and then you can choose the model and then the frequency. Then it can run in the background. Now for this, you definitely want the cloud version. You don't want it to be on the computer, right? Because what if your computer is off? That defeats the purpose. And I think that's all I wanted to cover. How to set up right now, so we got that. All right. Yes. The next one will be on workflow automation related to this. Any other questions, comments?
This was,
Great.
yeah, this was great. Like,
So that's Tuesday.
Yes, it's going to be not tomorrow. Next Tuesday, 11 to 12, it's gonna be webinar, it's gonna be Zoom.
I think I'm signed up for that. So, but this was very clear and
Some of this might be overlapping with the one here because I already covered some of the scheduling and whatnot, but very similar.
but it's good because as I'm thinking about how to automate our workflows, it's a little complex, and so I need to hear it and see it and think about it a few times. Because I don't want to build something and then it's crap and I have to scrap it and start all over.
Have you done anything with Make or N8N, anything like that?
No, what's
With
that?
a Claude.
No. Well, I used to try with Claude, but don't. It's essentially like Zapier. Heard of Zapier?
Uh-huh.
So it's the same thing, workflow automation, but more like just scripts, right? Blocks. Uh, a lot of people try to do something like that with Cloud Cowork. I would not try to accomplish the same amount of like the big scope like that
No,
because
no.
it can be quite brittle.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't mean that. I mean more like, I don't want to, I'm not planning to automate everything.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to figure out is what can be automated and makes sense. And what is stuff I need to do
Sorting.
because I add value there, unique value, so.